And for me, it goes back to the same idea of allowing yourself to be the fool, allowing yourself to be imperfect, allowing yourself to be human. And to be human is not to be perfect, but to be imperfectly human, right? Humans are imperfect.
Yeah.
That's the nature of that.
Welcome to the Master the Media podcast. I'm your host, Amy Gorin, and I'm so excited to bring a special guest to you today, Dr. Kevin Mays. Welcome, Kevin.
Why, thank you. I'm so excited to be here, Amy. What a great conversation in store.
So excited to have you. And Dr. Kevin is an expert on public speaking, and we're going to talk about all the ways that we can all be strong presenters a lot more easily than we think. So, before we dive in, I just want to introduce you a little bit to Dr. Kevin. He's an executive coach, author, speaker, and he's coached hundreds of executives to lead with intention and create successful collaborative teams. His clients have achieved tremendous system-wide growth and have fostered more meaningful workplaces. He's an award-winning speaker and an author on team performance. Welcome, Kevin.
Thank you so much. And I love thinking about how we show up. Right? And so much of what you're all about. It's like, how do we show up and present ourselves and project ourselves and really get our message heard? So I'm just so excited for this conversation and to dig in deep and hopefully uncover some helpful nuggets that people can use so they can get their message out there more effectively.
Likewise, and Kevin and I were talking before we started recording this episode, and I was saying that we get so many because we work with healthcare professionals and master the media, and they want to go on and appear in media and then use that to monetize their platforms. But the thing that often stops them is that self-doubt, that feeling of I'm going to be an imposter. No one wants to hear what I have to say. What do you have to say to all those people who have that self-doubt?
I remember very clearly when I had this aha moment back when I was in college, and I had a presentation I had to do for an English class. And I remember I love to write, and I wrote this, and I'm standing in front of the group and completely paralyzed. And I remember it just like some system in me shut down because there's this attachment I had to showing up a certain way and a fear I had that they would see me for the imposter that I knew I was, right? And I realized after, there was a critical moment in that moment when I'm in front of the group and I'm cracking under pressure and I'm stuttering and stammering. And I had this realization. My fear was I was going to look like a fool and they were going to see me for the imposter that I was. And in one moment, I remember giving myself permission to be a fool. Stop resisting against it and step into it. And I'll tell you what happened in that moment. I went from like blocking my energy, where I was afraid, where I was driven by fear. And it's like that the other side of the coin of fear is excitement. And I found that in that moment, some animation happened in me. And I really was giving myself permission to be a fear. And really, it's about embracing that self-doubt, because that's what the self-doubt was for me. It was that fear that was hiding under the surface. And I was afraid I was going to look like an idiot. I was going to say something stupid. And when I said, you know what? Say something stupid. Be an idiot, be a fool. And I'll tell you what, I didn't become an idiot. I didn't become a fool. Instead, I became animated. I became alive. I became engaging. I became enthusiastic. And that thing, public speaking is the thing that most people fear. And in that moment, with that cognitive shift, I I entered a pathway of public speaking that at one point, I mean, I was winning awards for public speaking, right? I mean, and
That's
it was,
incredible.
yeah, amazing. Then doing keynotes, a guy who was paralyzed by it became a student of it and recognized that it's not, it's, this is also, I think, the same lessons for leaders, that we become paralyzed or tripped up by our perception and our conception, the story and the narrative we tell ourselves. And when you can strip that down and just be vulnerable in the moment, you can bring so much power the power to transform other people, and really the power to bring your message forth. It's like at some point, our ego, like who are we not to bring that message to the world that we have, especially healthcare providers? What you're doing is transforming the health of other individuals, yet you're letting your own internal narrative and head trash get in the way of that.
That's
Well,
so
who are you?
true.
Yeah, who are you not to bring your gift? We
I
need it.
I talked to so many amazing practitioners, and so I'm a registered dietitian. I have a lot of
Hmm.
education, but these physicians have like quadruple the amount of
Hmm.
education.
Hmm.
And they a lot of them are have that feeling of, they're scared, they're worried about being judged by their peers. And I
Hmm.
agree, those moments where we get out of our own heads. And I'm one who, like, I a long time ago, I just was like, we have limited time. I don't have time to record
Yes.
something and re-record it and edit myself. And people are more attracted to you, right? When you show that vulnerable side of, like, oops, I said something I shouldn't have, or I just pronounced something wrong and corrected myself. And that those are the real moments.
The authenticity is one of the most powerful speaking techniques I've seen. I love it. I often speak at like engineering or medical conferences, and you'll see folks who will get up behind the podium and they will read, and it puts everybody to sleep. Instead of going up and telling your story and being real and authentic and genuine and like a human to human connection, that's what enlivens people and wakes up their potential. And recognizing that, well, so often I see high achievers. Part of the reason high achievers are high achievers is because of the fear underneath that they're trying to compensate for. The belief that they're not good enough, the belief that they don't measure up, the belief that they're worthless or lovable. That goes way back to childhood, right? So we just keep trying to do more to prove ourselves. And I fall into that bucket as well. But I think everybody at some level does, right? We develop our own strength based on this underlying belief in our fallibility that we don't measure up somehow. And so that for me, this is the act of allowing yourself to be the fool. Allow yourself not to measure up. Allow yourself not to be good enough. Stop resisting against it because it's only a narrative in your own head. And when you stop resisting against the narratives in your head and just notice it for what it is, don't believe it, don't buy into it. Just notice, oh, here's a pattern of self doubt that's playing itself out. From that position, you have a choice. When you resist it, you don't. It owns you. When you allow yourself, I'm going to be a fool. I'm going to be the idiot. I'm going to be the one who step into your own squeamishness. It's only yours, and it's only a thought in your head and a feeling in your body and nothing more. It's not true. And for me, that was the huge turning point that allowed me to be able to carry a room of 1,000 people in a keynote, which I never could have done before.
I love that. So backtrack a little bit and tell us, like, how did you get started? How did you get yourself out of that, toxic headspace and into this, let's just be of service and be ourselves and be present?
Yeah. Well, it goes back. The starting point was that instance I talked about earlier,
Yeah,
right? So I'm in school and I'm in front of the group and I'm cracking under pressure. And I said, you know what? I'm going to give myself permission just to be a fool, be an idiot. And then I realized within that space, I could be whatever I wanted. And I could take this energy and repress it, trying to show up a certain way to look professional and to look smart and look like I'm not an idiot. Or I could throw that all to the wind, let go of my expectation, and actually take this energy and channel it. And when I talk about becoming animated, that's what it became. Like this energy that I was pushing down, I began to use it and like to express myself in a larger way to larger groups. And as I did that more and more, I started to pay attention to the things I said and the way the audience reacted. And it's so interesting because it's been a series of steps over the course of my life, right? You never arrive, but I remember one day I was working as an executive consultant, and I was in now to work with the entire board of directors of a large financial institution. So now here I show up, and here's the board table with 20 people and me presenting. And there it was all over again. Oh my, and they all have their suits on, and they're all like the power people. And I'm like, oh no, they're going to see that I'm an imposter. They're going to recognize that I don't know what I'm doing. And the reality is like we don't see ourselves very well. We don't see the magic we bring. We don't give a full account to it. We don't give value to it. We undervalue it. And in doing so, we that's where the fear comes in. I think when you own your gift to recognize that what you bring to the world is profound and powerful and the world needs to hear it, and you step into your vulnerability. And that's the thing that I really had to wrestle with is like the way I dealt with when I was growing up. You know, you come into the world this full on wild, feral creature, and we start to get this feedback that says, this is the way to be. And we live in constraint, right? We learn to use our inside voice. We learn to take off our muddy shoes when we come in. And we learn not to be wild. We learn to be, oh, the responsible one, the pleasing one, the perfect one, the the hardworking, diligent one. Whatever it is, we have these drives that become ingrained in our neurocircuitry that drive how we show up. And then it's like, as long as those things become validated, we're okay. And we look for validation, right? But this is the thing that after a while, our minds control us. We don't control them. And part of the work is with awareness, noticing what these patterns are, put them down and step out of your comfort zone. That's where growth happens. And being able to then stand in front of the group of executives and realize I don't have to be the smart one. I don't have to be the one who's professional and trying to impress anybody. And that was a hard thing. It takes evolution right within yourself to just step into the void. Like, I know what I know. I don't know what I don't know. I don't have the answer for everything, but I can tell you what I do know. And to step in with that and own it, and then own it with a little bit of humor. Like, you know what? Sometimes I get it wrong. And I'm an idiot. I'm okay. I'm an idiot, but I'll tell you what, I do know. And this is the work I think that's helped me, and not only in keynotes and speaking, but with the executive work I do with executives, is like to help them get out of their own head, get out of their own, the way we compensate for our own self doubt. Let go of it. Let go of the step into the self doubt because it's not true.
I,
It's just a thought. It's
I
just a
love
thought.
that. And I think what you said a second ago of, it took me a long time to get to that point of, yes, I don't know everything. Nobody knows everything. And
Hmm.
for me, that was one of those big moments of change where, within Master the Media, I coach, we have a group of like 30 people who I'm coaching,
Hmm.
and
Hmm.
I can answer 99% of the questions. And occasionally I don't know. That's a really good question.
Yeah.
Let's investigate that. Whoever finds the answer,
Yes.
please share. We'll all learn something.
Hmm.
And I think it's helpful for everyone to know that nobody has all the answers. And if you do, you're probably lying. I mean, you definitely are lying.
Well, and if you come off as having all the answers, it comes off as disingenuous. It comes off as speaking at people. But if you're a curious person who's been on a pathway trying to figure stuff out, and you can talk about your own experience, what you've learned along the way from your own difficulties, and the times you beat your own head against the wall, and the times you've been stuck, that's profound. That to me, that's it. And so it's like the more you own the vulnerability.
I love that. So let's have some, because I think I love what we've been talking about, but it still feels, our
Hmm.
listeners might be like, so what do I actually do? If
Yes.
I if you're listening and you're like, oh, I haven't quite taken the plunge into public speaking, I really want to go on TV, but that scares me. What is the first step that you recommend?
Well, I mean, there's the internal steps and the external steps,
Let's
right?
talk
So
about them
getting
both. Yeah.
so the external steps, I mean, you're more the master of that, like how to get yourself, make yourself mediagenic and get in front of the right people to become the go-to expert that the local TV station or what have you seeks. But secondly, it's so interesting how easy it is to discount our experience because the hard thing is for us, it's just normal, right? It's normal and it's not special and we don't see it. And that's, I think, like cultivating that objective observer within yourself to be able to step out of yourself and truly own the expertise that you have to recognize it's not normal. You are special and you've been down a pathway where you've learned things through your own process and you've walked down a hard path, right? Everybody has. But the more you can own that, especially if you have a level of expertise, this is the funny thing I find that when people attach themselves to their expertise and try to present, oh, I'm the expert, it fails. But if you present yourself as, oh, I'm the fool who's learned a lot along the way, let me tell you some of what I've learned, and you can bring that expertise to the table, individuals love it. They connect, they hear themselves in your story because to be human is to be fallible. To be human is to have that struggle. To be human is to have that self-doubt. We don't need some AI version of a human stepping up to tell us all their beautiful, to pontificate their wisdom. Nobody wants that.
So what I'm
And when
hearing is
Mhm.
share your origin story, share what got you,
Mm,
what obstacle did you overcome to get to be the expert that you are?
well, and I love it. That was the first question you asked me. What's the origin story? And it's that, right? It's that thing to think along the way of how you why do you know? As Simon Sinek says, people don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it. And so often I see folks want to talk about what they know. So exciting, what I know. Well, you know what? And it becomes like an ego inflation. Look how special I am. Nobody wants to hear how special you are. They want to hear, and how brilliant you are. No, they want to hear the real person who had the real struggle along the way, sharing your origin story in a way. You think around the dinner table. What's the story that gets told every Thanksgiving about the thing that you did? What's the role you play in your family, the thing you know to be true underneath it all, that maybe is the thing you try to keep hidden. Man, that's the thing. Bring that to the table. In telling that kind of vulnerable origin story and what you learned from it and how it has helped you and now it helps others. It's profound. It's
I love
life
that.
changing for other people, not explaining to them your brilliance, right? The brilliance is the thing that shuts people off or they don't connect with because they, oh, you're not like me. No. If you can boil it down to your commonality and your basic humanity and how you struggled and overcame and what you learned from that it's powerful.
Going, I feel like the origin story of my public speaking that I always share is like, okay, I tried TV and journalism school. I blinked 100 times. I was like, I'm never going to do this again. And then I got thrown literally overnight for a job. Like, you're going to be on national CBS tomorrow. And I did it and loved it. But now I'm thinking, I'm going to go even further back in time when I
Mhm.
was in like middle school and we had to do those, you have to get up on stage and speak about whatever topic they give you. It's a little bit of improv. And I was always so nervous. I would just literally get up there and like start laughing like a hyena. And I couldn't stop because I was like, I don't know what else to do. I can't talk. I'm gonna laugh.
Mhm.
And I'm like, that's where I actually started. So anyway, you just
That's
you just made
brilliant.
me
And
think back.
to recognize that energy was there and it manifests as laughter, but it's really about, in my mind, I think of it this way. We're always playing a role in our life. Most of us play a role that was written for us in the first 3 years of our life. When we're 3 years old and our brain is forming a million neural connections a minute based on our experience. And we learn be humble, don't show off, be smart, be quiet, do what we learn all these messages that drive us, but recognize we are just playing a role and you get to choose and decide. And if you are somebody who has a message, then it is on you to choose to change that role. Because if you're playing the role, I knew a physician I worked with who was very good at being humble and low key, and he didn't, he had this idea that he shouldn't brag, he shouldn't show off. But because of that idea, he was a miserable public speaker. He never inspired anybody, even though he had this powerful message. I said, the work was he needed to let go of that belief that to speak up was being somehow egocentric. It was not. He needed to bring this idea and bring some contagious enthusiasm because that's what works. And it's about understanding what role you want to play and understand when you're in front of a group, it's a role no different than the role you play, but you don't even know it's a role you're playing.
I love that. And it's making me think. So a lot of times when people find us and Master the Media and they want to work with us, they've gone through many evolutions of, oh, I worked with this firm or this coach, and I was told I'm too much. I was told I need to tone myself down to change my niche. And I was depressed. I was miserable. And like, that's when people come to find us. And it's like, no, let's be authentic. Let's lean into that too much version of yourself and just show up, right?
Hmm. That's what you think. It's personality that really, when you look at individuals who have the greatest success, is my observation, is individuals who understand and own their personality. Now, unfortunately, sometimes it goes really haywire and it's like, but people will follow a controversial perspective. And it doesn't mean you have to be nuts, but you have to be willing to own your perspective, to own it and not worry about pleasing everybody and maybe being controversial. And that's runs very counter. If you're deep in your head, you're good at being a pleaser, but underneath it all, you believe something to be true, but you don't really own it because you don't want to upset anybody because you're good at being a pleaser. Then you need to think about, recognize the role of being a pleaser is a role you've learned to play. And it's maybe time to put that down and make a choice to say the bold thing that must be said. There's
I
a
love
lot of bold things that must be said right now that don't, people have
so many.
learned to kind of, people have learned to keep their head down and just not say anything and act like it's not going on. No, we need bold people with a perspective, but a grounded, valid, honest perspective, a vulnerable perspective. And that's what I see that we lack a lot. We see a lot of people who are angry and sure, that can get a bunch of views on social media. But how about somebody who's thoughtful? How about somebody who's vulnerable? That's Oprah. Right? Right? I mean, if you want to follow the Oprah path, be open and vulnerable. If you want to follow the egregious, aggressive path, well, it doesn't help you have contentment and happiness in your own life. This I can say for sure. It's with your thoughts that you create it all. And the more you can be honest and true to yourself and open and vulnerable, the people who can't enter the world with anger and aggression because that's protecting them from the vulnerability underneath. It's so powerful if you
I
can allow yourself to do that.
Yeah, I think that's really fantastically said. What are your, because I know this is probably like a whole, I mean, this is definitely a whole extensive conversation, but
Mhm.
what are your quicker tips on like how to get yourself into that headspace before, if you're those few minutes before you walk onto a stage or,
Mhm.
it's a live recording, how, like, what are your quick self practice things that you can do?
Absolutely. There are some things that work, and one is at some point understand that you are stop resisting against this self-doubt. Recognize that no matter what your mind might say, it's not true. It's just a fleeting belief that's left over. You are good enough. You bring everything to the table. You have the expertise. You do know. And then from that place, just step into a place of presence, right? Our minds are conditioned to always be filled with content and to find things in our perceptional kind of framework that validate our self-concept and to put that down and just learn to be present of mind, emotion, and body. And what I mean by that is I love it when I walk on stage. Now I start to become aware of the sensation in my body and recognize that if you're not paying attention, the sensation will begin to dictate your behavior. And the same, what I've discovered for myself is the same very similar sensation that will be complete paralyzing fear. And it's an actual physical sensation. It's the tightness in my chest and in my neck, and it's my breath. But it's also excitement. It's two sides of the coin. And when I just come back and breathe and just notice what's in my body and know that I know what I know and I show up authentically, regardless of how I feel, right? Then that fear that I'm trying to hold back, if I actually channel it, and then when I'm in a group of 1,000, in front of a group of 1,000 people, I channel it. And I become large, and I become a storyteller, and I become real, a real human. So for me, it's that practice of deep presence, being able to come back just to focus on your breathing, to be right here, right now, not let your mind spin off, because that's where in my mind, the downward slope happens, right? Our mind starts to spin and we start to believe it. We believe the narrative in our head. Put down the narrative. Stop filling your mind with content. Just be in this moment.
I love
Right
that.
now, you're good enough. Right now, everything's okay. Right now, because you know what our minds do? We project into the future about the conversation we're going to have, and we create all this fear that will paralyze us. But right here, right now, well, we're deeply okay.
Yes, we are.
In fact, I would say I would go one step further to say we are brilliant. Our brilliance is in this moment, not in what we think we should say, not in our regret about what we said, or our guilt or our shame about what happened, not our anxiety or fear about what's going to happen, but our true brilliant sanity comes in this moment. Our intrinsic health comes to the surface in this moment. Being able to tame our consciousness, bring our attention back to this moment, then we can really kind of mine from the well of our own brilliance and bring that in our own insecurity and our own squeamishness, but our own brilliance as well. It's all tied up into one ball.
Yeah. What do you think of, because I feel like the number one tip that's like circulated out there is if you get nervous on stage, look at the same person the whole time. Good or bad advice?
Look at the same person. It's interesting. It's interesting. You look at the same person. When I get nervous on stage, for me, it's not looking at the same person, it's looking at the person. No different than, I mean, the people out there, we objectify them as if they're criticizing us, and to recognize that person is somebody's mother. And that's what I tend to do, to look at the real person. Underneath it all is a person who is fallible, just like you. A person with their own insecurity is a real person who wants your message. So to me, I don't look at the same person, but I look through to see the real person in each person, right? I look through beyond the appearance of the nice tie and the professional look to know that underneath that person is a real person who struggles, is
I
a real person with the real discontent, and a person with the same insecurity, and who gets caught in the patterns of their own anger and their own shame and their own guilt. To speak to that person as if it's Thanksgiving and you're sitting around the table speaking to everybody around the table at Thanksgiving.
like bedside manner, right? Because like I was at the doctor's
Mm-hmm.
recently, and my doctor, who was like, she's the kind of doctor who gives you a hug, right? She
Mm-hmm.
was like, I'm a little tired. My 4-year-old like woke me up at 3 a.m. and I didn't get back to sleep. I was like, you're a real person. I like it.
Isn't that something? And this is the hard thing. The old model, of medicine is the mechanistic model. Humans are a machine. If a part's broken in the machine, take out the part, put it in a new part, and bang, you're done. And then even in leadership, similar, the organization is a machine. If a part's broken, take it out, which is a human, put it in a new human. And that mechanistic model got us so far. But I love it how it's changing to this more human-centered model where it's the doctor is not a mechanic, but a healer. And the healing comes through the energetic connection. And that's where the power comes from with a speaker in front of a group. It's that energetic connection with the group. It's not me standing up and being just telling all my wisdom. No, it's that ebb and flow. I think of the rock star, right? Who is like picking up on the energy of the group and then channeling it back. That's the kind of thing and there's the authenticity that happens, this ebb and flow of energy when you're in front of a group, or you're on, that's the interesting thing in social media. Even you're talking to a camera, but what's the practice? I love it, like loving the camera, projecting love into the camera, and this larger kind of energetic quality that you're loving on the camera and the people in who are watching, right? And I see it with a smile in your face. You know it and you live it, right? Because you've got this infectious quality that people want to just kind of just lean in. And how do you do that? How do you practice that sense of presence and infectious kind of positivity that you show up right now with?
I mean, I personally give myself permission to be me and unapologetically, like, I have a 7 month old who's sick right now. And we have a nanny at home, but like, I'm still kind of in and out. And I'm like, okay, I didn't
Mhm.
have time to put earrings on. No big deal. Like, am I showing up perfectly? No, but I'm showing up as myself. And that's what matters.
It's so interesting because I'm glad you called that out. Everybody was thinking, oh my God, you don't have earrings on.
I know, right?
Right? It's brilliant that we think people see these flaws and nobody, it's not a flaw. It's a flaw to us. I would have never even conceived of the fact that you don't have earrings on, but that's consciousness in your own mind. It's in your own consciousness. And if you don't manage it, you'll start to feel like a little off because it didn't
Yeah.
have time. And I love that giving yourself unapologetic permission. That's so brilliant. And for me, it goes back to the same idea of allowing yourself to be the fool, allowing yourself to be imperfect, allowing yourself to be human. And to be human is not to be perfect, but to be perfect, imperfectly human, right? Humans are imperfect.
Yeah.
That's the nature of
And
things.
and there's always going to be people, right? Like, I'm sure you have people who are like, oh, Kevin, be more, less real, less, more normal, or like, whatever. There's people who say things like that to me, and I just like brush them off. I'm like, that would be so boring and horrible
Hmm.
and
Hmm.
not fun.
The hard thing is it's the balance between understanding your strengths. Do you get better at your strengths or do you bolster your weaknesses? Where do you focus your attention and your energy, right? And a lot of speakers and leaders will focus on the thing they're not good at and try to get better at that. And I think, at some point it's good, but man, the real magic is building on what you do really well. Your unique, the thing that makes you thrive, the thing that lights the fire in you. When you find that and do that, and that's why I think for speakers in healthcare, especially, man, there is something they are passionate about.
So
And
passionate.
and when you get on your soapbox and talk about that thing and get yourself out of the way, forget about how you look. People don't care. They're not paying attention. I didn't notice you didn't have earrings on, right? And that's the thing. We think people are going to notice that or judge us. They're not. Bring your message and be excited. If you're excited about the message that you bring, I tell you what, it is the thing that makes, in my experience, having watched countless speakers, it's the thing that makes a difference. Not the person who's got it all dialed in and polished, but the person who brings the passion and the excitement. Man, that motivates change in the audience. The
Yeah,
other people, it becomes sterile information.
I love that. So here's a question. So a lot of the people who I talk to, whether they, in discovery calls, whether they become master of the media clients or not, one of their, goals, like in addition to I want to write a book, I want to,
Hmm.
be, on the Today Show, is I want to give a TED talk.
Hmm.
And I've talked, it's on my bucket list too. I just haven't had time to actually do anything about it. But I've talked to people who are like, oh, to do my TED talk, I hired, a speaking coach and I spent 2 years rehearsing. And then there's the flip side of the coin is I didn't, I prepared but didn't prepare. Like, so how do we get there, and how do we not get in our own way to get there?
Oh, it's like having kids, right? Oh, I'm never ready. I'm never ready. I'm never, oh, not yet, not ready yet. It's a whole, when is enough enough? Now, the hard thing is, again, top performers are good at being really critical and they're never quite prepared. Perfectionists are brilliant at procrastinating. And
Oh
at
yeah,
some point, jumping into the water is key. I think one thing is to just get the date on the books,
I love
and then
that.
you will prepare. Get the
Yeah.
date on the books, and guess what? You will show up and you'll be ready, and it will happen. And will you beat yourself up about it? Well, if that's your pattern, you will. If your pattern is, oh, I should have, I could have, I would have, right? But recognize that's not about the reality of that situation. That's your mind perpetuating a more deeply ingrained pattern that it established early on that no matter what I do, it's not quite good enough. It's not quite good
That's
enough.
a horrible way to live. My
I
goodness.
know, but it's so much. It's the way most of us live, right? It's like I just wrote a book, and as soon as I remember when I wrote the first book, and
Congratulations.
as soon as I wrote it, I was like, oh, I was almost ashamed of it. I didn't want anybody to read it. Man, I hope nobody, I'm like, because it's not good enough. Because it's like you take this part of yourself and you put it out there. What if somebody doesn't like it? Oh my goodness, what's it say about me? I'm an idiot. And all this stuff happens. And we're complex individuals as humans. And can we be bold enough to just be okay not being okay? Again, I go back to be okay being the fool. Good, I'm okay. My with the first book, you know what? It's not perfect. That's all right. But there's something in it that's meaningful. And that's
And I
we
always
have
tell
to get.
my experts that your 60% or 80% might be someone else's 200 or 300%. And so we can't lose sight of that.
Yeah, or 2 or 3,000%.
There you go.
Right. I mean, it's like our normal state. It's normal. We don't see it. It's like the glasses you have on your face. You don't see the lenses, but we all have a lens and we don't see it. And that lens is what makes it's our unique experience. It's what we've learned from it, how we show up differently. But to us, it's just normal,
Yeah.
right? And I love it. I recently we had winter break. My son and I went to Colorado, and I travel pretty regularly for my work, so I have travel kind of figured out. And usually when I travel with my entire family, I'm the one who organizes things. Well, my wife and my other son did not want to go snowboarding, so they went to Las Vegas instead. And it was brilliant to see like simple things. How to get effectively from the airport to the hotel. I have it so dialed in, I don't think about it and be able to help my wife understand there's some simple things you can do that for me, I've done it so many times I don't think about it. But if you don't do it, it's a big deal. And to be able to bring that kind of those little things, those little travel tips that I don't even think about because it's normal because I do it all the time. Bring that to my wife to make her life so much easier and better all the way through the whole trip from check-in to getting the luggage to all these different things that she would never think about. It's a foreign thing because I usually take care of it now when she's doing it on her own. It becomes an imposition. So I say all this just to say we know more than we think, and what we consider normal is not normal to most people. It's normal to us. In learning to be able to identify and appreciate that and take some time to really understand that our perspective is unique and we have more value than we know is so profoundly powerful. The world needs that.
I I love that. What so we I feel like we've shared so many great thoughts, but what actionable, like, what do you want listeners to do to be like, I just listened to this amazing podcast episode with Dr. Kevin and I'm going to go do X. What's the X?
Yeah, well, I love it. So I go back a couple things. One, first of all, I talk about presence, being able to understand and be in this moment. And then from presence as a platform, awareness. Awareness doesn't happen without presence. When I talk about awareness, I mean awareness of our patterns of thinking that we ingrained early on that drive us if we're not paying attention. Those patterns of thinking drive our feeling and drive our behavior. What we will do with 100% certainty is keep doing the same thing we've always done. We will keep justifying our behavior. We'll keep ourselves being right, but stay stuck in the pattern. And the thing I would challenge people to do is to move into their discomfort, step out of the comfort zone, take the risk, do the thing, be the fool. And the time, I mean, life is short. You get one shot at it and it's over. The time is now. So if you're thinking about jumping in, I would say connecting with you is probably a profound thing, right? The time is now. You don't get a second chance at life. People don't regret the choices they make, they regret the choices they don't make. The world needs your
Yes.
message. And I'd say just to be able to understand that if you've been sitting on the fence thinking about how, this message you want to bring to the world, to understand that there's an old pattern of doubt that's probably getting in your way.
A
Old
thousand
pattern of doubt
percent.
that's keeping you from accessing your brilliance, the brilliance that the world so desperately needs right now. We
Yes. So
need you
it's
to be brilliant.
it's that you might get a no if you try, but you might get a yes, and you definitely will get the no if you don't try. So go and try.
Absolutely. Yeah, yeah. Well, and I love it. Go for no. I mean, it's like understanding and measuring your conversion. And if you ask five people and get one yes and four no's, then go for a lot of no's.
Oh yeah. I shared that with my students the other day. I was like, you know what? I was talking with Dr. Mark Hyman's team, and like maybe by me putting this out there, he'll actually say yes. But I was like, hey, would he want to be on my podcast? And they were like, that's a firm no. I was like, you know what? I would have kicked myself if I didn't ask because I was
Mhm.
there in the room having the conversation. So I appreciate that no.
Absolutely. And they don't know what they're missing.
Well, thank you.
Well, right. We can't. The hard thing is we take the things we perceive personally, like it's a statement about us, right? It's easy to let that sneak in. It's a hard no. Uh-oh, I'm not good enough. I don't measure up. I'm not, and then we become less. We become less because of the things we perceive and the meaning we attach to it. And when you object, just make it an objective observation. It's a yes or no. The tree falls in the woods. We don't get upset and cry. They say no, great. That's on them, not on me. It's not a statement on me, but so many people find it as a statement of invalidation
Yeah. I was like, you
and
know
then
what?
shrink
When they
and shrink.
explained why it was, he's busy promoting his own stuff, like, oh yeah, that makes perfect sense. There's only so many hours in the day. I know that firsthand with a child now. I get
Hmm.
it. Thank you for telling me. Move
Hmm.
on. Where can people find you, Kevin?
Oh, I am glad to be available to folks to help on their journey. Leadership journey is what I focus on. Go to upgradeyourleadership.com or mazeleadership.com. I have Leadership Academy. I do a lot of team development, a lot of speaking. I've got a schedule of speaking events coming up and on all social media. I'm
Amazing.
posting
Well,
all
we'll
the
have
time.
that in the show notes so you guys can find it really
Thank you.
easily. And coming up for you guys who are listening, we have a live masterclass on March 25th on how to use your expertise to land your first or next paid brand partnership. So go to masterthemedia.co/BPS dash masterclass to get your free spot. Thank you so much, Kevin. It's been so great talking to you.
It's a pleasure. Thank you so much.
Thank you.